Good morning, class 10. Today we will do two poems, Dust of Snow and Fire and Ice. Although both the poems appear to be very short poems written by Robert Frost, but they have deep meaning. They have an in depth meaning, and let us see what is the poet trying to explain in such few words. Dust of Snow. First, I am reading out something just for your information. You have studied this poem earlier, you know what is the background of the poem, but just for your revision, I am reading out some lines which will make you understand why this poem was written, when this poem was written by Robert Frost. Dust of Snow. The poem is set on a wintry day. As from the heading of the poem only we can guess, snow. The word snow signifies winter season. The poem is set on a wintry day. The poet is standing under a hemlock tree. There is a mention of hemlock tree in the poem, and hemlock tree is considered to be a poisonous tree and signifies sadness. It is not a symbol of joy. It is not a symbol of peace or happiness, but it is a symbol of gloom or sadness. The poet is standing under a hemlock tree, and the falling of snowflakes leaves a great impact on the mental state of the poet Robert Frost. So, we are going to read that although the poet has mentioned the hemlock tree in the poem, which symbolizes sadness and gloom, he has also mentioned crow in the poem, which is black in color, a bird black in color, and is also a symbol of bad omen, is a symbol of sadness, a symbol of fear, but still the falling of the snow on the poet's body changes his mood entirely. As we will read the poem, you will see that in the starting, the mood of the poem was sad. The mood of the poet was sad. The hemlock tree, the crow, all signify sadness. But the falling of the snow on his body changes his mood entirely. So I was telling you that the falling of snowflakes leaves a great impact on the mental state of the poet Robert Frost. It is ironical that both the crow and the hemlock tree, considered to be inauspicious, bring cheerfulness and gladden his heart. It is ironical. That means on the one side we are saying that the crow and the hemlock tree are a symbol of sadness. They signify something that is inauspicious, something that brings unluck, bad luck. But at the same time, they are also responsible for changing the mood of the poet in this poem. They bring cheerfulness and they gladden his heart. Had he not experienced such a pleasant moment, he would have regretted at the wastage of the whole day. So, with this happy note, the poet concludes the poem and says that had he not experienced such a pleasant moment that day, he would have regretted the whole life that he wasted his day. Now I am reading the poem, then we will take up the first stanza, then the second one. Dust of Snow. The way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree, has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. In the first stanza, the poet is saying, the way a crow shook on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. That means the poet is standing. The poet is standing under the hemlock tree. Or you can also say that the poet was walking by the hemlock tree, and a crow, who is a symbol of bad omen because of its color, because of its shrill voice. The crow doesn't have a very pleasant voice. The nightingale has a very pleasant voice. The nightingale sings beautifully, but the crow doesn't. So, by its appearance also and by its sound, it is a symbol of fear or gloom or sadness. So the poet is saying, as he was walking by the hemlock tree, which is a poisonous tree, a crow who was sitting on this tree, the hemlock tree, throws some snow dust on him, throws some snowflakes on him. Although both the hemlock tree and the crow signify sadness, signify fear and gloom, but this throwing of dust of snow immediately changed the poet's mood. First stanza I am reading again. The way a crow shook on me. Shook on me means it shook. Shook, in other words, here means the crow threw some dust of snow on the poet. While the poet was passing by the hemlock tree, a crow who was sitting on this tree threw some dust of snow or some snowflakes on the poet's body. Second stanza. Has given my heart a change of mood. Has given my heart a change of mood. What has changed the mood? The falling of snowflakes suddenly brightened the mood of the poet. The snowflakes, which were fresh, which were cold, which were white in color, they changed and brightened up the poet's mood. Earlier, he had seen a black crow, he had seen a poisonous hemlock tree, and his mood was gloomy, he was sad, he was depressed. But the falling of the snowflakes on his body, the white colored snowflakes, fresh snowflakes, icy cold snowflakes, when they fell on the poet's body, his mood completely changed. Has given my heart a change of mood. Now his heart is refreshed. He is not in a sad mood now. He is not gloomy now. He is refreshed. And saved some part of a day I had rued. Saved some part of the day. That means his day is being saved. His day could have been gloomy. His mood and his day both could have continued to remain gloomy and sad. But indirectly or unknowingly, we can say, unknowingly, the crow who was sitting on this hemlock tree, when he made the snowflakes fall on the poet's body, it was a blessing in disguise for the poet. It was a kind of blessing for him, and his mood completely changed now. All this has brightened up his day. The falling of the snow on him brightened up his day. And he is saying that had this not happened, had this incident not taken place, he would have regretted always. His mood would have not changed. He would have stayed gloomy throughout the day, throughout the remaining part of the day, and he would have regretted. So, this regret is not there in his heart because now he is refreshed. He is happy. He is in a joyful mood. I am repeating once again what the second stanza says and tries to tell us. The poet was in a sad mood, but the falling of the snow on the poet has brought joy in his life. The falling of the snow on the poet has brightened up his day. It has brought joy in his remaining part of the day, and he is happy now. So, the poet is also trying to convey this message that we should not take things for granted. Many a times, what happens? We form an opinion. If we think that a particular thing or a commodity is a symbol of unhappiness, it brings bad omen, then whenever we will see it or whenever we will hear it, the same thought will prevail in our mind, the same thought will come to our mind immediately, and we will not even like to look at that thing or that object. So we have a stereotype in our mind. Our thinking is like a stereotype thinking. We do not want to change our opinion about many things in our lives. But through this poem, the poet gives a very strong message to us that we should not form opinions like this, because sometimes inauspicious things like a crow, like the hemlock tree, also can bring joy in a person's heart, in a person's life. Sometimes inauspicious objects and things can also brighten up one's day. That is why we should not always think in a pessimistic way. We should try to change our outlook. We never know when and how sad things which we have been considering that they bring sadness, they bring unhappiness in our lives, even those things can brighten up our life or brighten up our day. Like in this poem we have seen the crow, who has a black colored body, whose voice is also not very pleasant to hear, and the hemlock tree, which is considered to be a poisonous tree. Both these, when the poet saw both these, the crow and the hemlock tree, he became gloomy, he was depressed, he was sad, his mood was not good, he was in a sad mood. But when the crow, who was sitting on the hemlock tree, threw some flakes of snow on the poet's body, it completely changed the poet's mood. The falling of the white snow, the falling of the fresh snow, the cold snow changed the poet's mind and his mood also completely, and now he is not regretting to be there. He is not sad that he was walking by the hemlock tree. Now he is in a good mood. So this is how the poet gives a very strong message to us that we should not form stereotype opinions about anything, even a thing which is considered to be a bad omen. Even such kind of things can sometimes bring brightness in our lives, happiness in our lives. So the poem, although appears to be a very small one, but it has a deep message. Now let us come to another poem, Fire and Ice. Fire and Ice basically is also based upon very strong emotions or feelings. In this poem also, the poet Robert Frost is trying to convey the idea that as fire and ice both are equally capable of bringing about destruction in this world, and they can bring an end to humanity. It can end all living beings. It can completely destroy the earth. Similarly, two strong emotions, those are desires and hatred, they can also ruin a person completely. They are also equally capable of destroying human beings. So we must have a control over our emotions. Our emotions should not rule us. We should rule our emotions. Many a times we have seen that our emotions rule us. We are not able to think what we are doing, what we are saying. It is wrong. We should know what we have to do, what we have to speak, what we have to think. Our emotions should not overrule us. We should rule our emotions. Now, I am reading the poem first, then we will see to the explanation. Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. Now let us see to the explanation. First stanza. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. These two lines are simple to understand. In these two lines, the poet is saying that there are many people in this world who are of the opinion that a day might come when the world will end due to fire. The temperature of our earth will become so much, the earth will become so much heated up that it will turn into fire. That heat will lead to fire, and ultimately we might perish. But others say that the temperature of our earth might go down so much, it would go down so much that it would become life almost impossible, and similar as the end will be due to fire, similar will be the end due to ice. That means in both the cases, whether the earth's surface is so much heated up that it would result in fire and life would become almost impossible, everybody would perish. There would be destruction all over. Similarly, if the temperature would go so down that everything will almost start freezing, then what will happen? Life will become impossible. It would not be suitable for any living being to survive on this earth. So, some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. The result is going to be the same in both the cases. Whether it is fire or ice, the result is going to be destruction. From what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. Now, in the first stanza, the poet is saying that as far as I have seen desire in people, I hold with those who favor fire. That means, according to the poet, the desires which are there within human beings, they are also equally capable of destruction as fire can be. I am repeating. The poet says in the third and the fourth line of the first stanza that as fire is capable of destruction, similarly, desires within oneself is also equally capable of destroying people. Desires are called as fiery desires. Many people you must have seen, they have strong desire to do this, to do that, to accomplish this task. Being ambitious is good, but having desires that they can become fiery desires, That means now they have no control over themselves. Now they don't have any control over their desires. They, in order to fulfill their desire, they can go to any extent. That is wrong. Because if anybody has such kind of fiery desires, that means his destruction is very near. Having ambition, being ambitious is one thing, but being over ambitious is another thing. So here, fiery desires are, in another term we can say, over ambition. Over ambition, isn't it? So the poet is saying that fiery desires are equally harmful as fire can destroy humanity, as fire can destroy every living being. It can ruin the whole earth. The earth might perish due to fire. Similarly, if a person has fiery desires within himself, he will also perish. That desire will ruin him. It will bring an end to his life. He might not die. End to his life does not here literally mean that he might die. He might not die. But gradually, when he will see that he is not able to fulfill his desire, then he might come. He might suffer from disease like depression. He might become angry very frequently. He might have high blood pressure. So gradually what will happen? He will become ill. Gradually he will not remain a healthy human being, mentally healthy and physically healthy. Mentally he will always be in trauma, in depression, in tension, and physically he might suffer from such kind of diseases like high blood pressure, etc. So when you are not healthy, that means you are ruining yourself. Reasons can be many. So in the first stanza, the poet is saying that there are two things capable of destruction, fire and ice. Both are equally capable. And third and fourth lines say that if a person has fiery desires within himself, then also it is equivalent. Fiery desires are equivalent to fire, and if a person has such kind of desires, his ruin is sure. He will be destroyed very soon. Second stanza. But if it had to perish twice, if it had to perish twice, here the poet says that if suppose the earth has to perish two times, once by fire and secondly by ice, but if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. In the first stanza, the poet is comparing fire to desires. The poet is comparing fire to desires. In the second stanza, the poet is comparing ice to hatred. Hatred is also equally capable of ruining a person. In the second stanza, let us see once again. If it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate. Now, in the first, let us come back to the first stanza. In the first stanza, he is saying that like desires can end a person, similarly, hatred can also do the same. I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. As ice has that capability of finishing humanity, bringing destruction, and completely every living being, all human beings, everybody will come to will become extinct, we will die, we will be destroyed. Similarly, if one has hatred within himself, slowly and gradually his end is also going to come, because he will always keep on burning himself from within due to hatred. When a person hates anybody, what is the first thing which he loses? He loses peace of mind. And if you are not at peace, if your mind is not at peace, you will suffer from sleepless nights. You will suffer from again high blood pressure or even low blood pressure. You will suffer from tensions, depression. So mentally and physically again, hatred will make you ill. And if a person remains ill constantly, whether he is mentally ill or physically ill, physical illness is slightly better than mental illness, because physical illness can be cured, mental illness cannot be cured. And problems like fiery desires, problems like hatred, they are mainly related to mental illness. If you suffer from hatred, then mentally you are never at peace. Something or the other is always there in your mind and you are not at peace at all. And gradually what will happen? You are destroying yourself. You are destroying yourself. You are not mentally and physically healthy. So in these two small stanzas, the poet is giving us great meanings. The meaning is that if people continue to have such fiery desires, or if they continue to have hatred within themselves, then that is going to certainly bring chaos everywhere. There will be chaos and confusion everywhere. Neither you are at peace, nor you will let others remain at peace. And it will bring about ruin as well. That is why it is very important, Robert Frost is saying, that our emotions should not rule us. We should rule our emotions. We should rule our emotions. We should know if we are desiring for something, if we are aspiring for something, we should know where should the limit be. Excess of everything is bad. Excess of aspirations, excess of desire is bad. And if you are trying to hate anybody, if you dislike somebody, if somebody is not in your list of favorites, that doesn't mean that your hatred should continue to go a long way further and you are going to build your own path of self-destruction. You should not do so. Your emotions should be in your control. So the poet is, I'm again repeating what the two stanzas mean. The poet is saying that there are two things on this earth which are capable of bringing destruction. One is fire, second is ice. Similarly, there are two things within ourselves which can bring our destruction. First is fiery desires, second is hatred. If we have fiery desires also, then as fire can bring about an end to everything on this earth, similarly, those desires can bring an end to ourselves. It can ruin everything. Similarly, in the second stanza, the poet says that if this earth has to end 2 times, then ice is equally capable of bringing about destruction as fire is capable. Here, by bringing an end 2 times, he also means that if we want to harm ourselves 2 times, then one way is to have fiery desires that can harm us, it will ruin us. Second way is by having hatred within ourselves. If we hate others, if we hate our fellow beings, if we hate humanity, then we will never be at peace. This will make us unhealthy, this will make the surroundings unhealthy, and there will be only chaos all around, and we will also ruin ourselves, we will ruin others as well. Because when we are not happy, we can't make others happy. That is why in this small poem, the poet is giving us a very strong message that we should be controlling our emotions. Our emotions should not control us. With this important note, I finish today's class. Revise the poems and do the question answers from the PDF. Thank you. Have a nice day.